Hello everyone, Jules here. Today I'd like to talk about some esoteric books, and these are in regard to Esoteric Masters and Magick. So I have about 5 books here. The first book is an anthology of magical writings, and this one is called The Book of Magick, From Antiquity to the Enlightenment. Here is the book. It's quite a thick book. It's about 680 pages. This book has been edited by Brian Copenhaver, and this book was available in a hardback version a number of years ago. It was a large black hardcover book. It was really in that format as a type of coffee table book. So this is a more compact version of that book. So I quite like the compact paperback version. This is published by Penguin and it's still quite easily available. So I just want to give you an idea of what is in this book. And the time period that it covers, from antiquity, it's covering from ancient times all the way up to the Enlightenment period, which was the beginning of scientific thought. So I'll just give you an idea of what's in here and some of the pictures that are in here. There are some black and white pictures in here. For example, an example of what's in here, we have the Emerald Tablet from Alchemy, 3 parts of the world's philosophy. So these are excerpts of the actual writings of esoteric masters and or magicians. So this is more of a reference book. It's not the kind of book that you would read cover to cover. And it's not an easy read. It might be a little bit too dry for some people. But for people who would like excerpts of the actual writings by these people, by these esoteric masters and or magicians, it's quite invaluable. I haven't really seen many books like this, where there are excerpts of the actual writings. So here's one of the black and white illustrations that are in here. So this drawing is from the Middle Ages. You have writings in here from Marsilio Ficino, and I'm going to talk about him a little bit more in the video, who was an astrologer and a magician. You have excerpts from the occult philosophy by Agrippa, Cornelius Agrippa. So there's excerpts from the occult philosophy in here as well. There's a picture here. It's mainly attributed to John Dee, the Elizabethan period. He was the first ceremonial magician who worked with angels, and here he is in his protective circle. I'm going to talk a bit more about John Dee in a separate book in the video too. So I'm just going to give you an idea still of what's in the book. Here's another Elizabethan magician drawing. So it's a really interesting book, but it is much more of a reference book. So I have to warn people, if you want to get this, this picture, this drawing is actually moving up to the Enlightenment period, because there is a section here on magic in the age of science. So this is when you're moving up to the Enlightenment period. There's a great bibliography in this book. It's really detailed towards the end. So there's a lot of bibliography. There's notes, index. It's quite invaluable, this book. I'm just having a look to see if I missed anything else as far as pictures are concerned. Of course, with John Dee, it talks about the hieroglyphic monad, so there's a chapter on John Dee in here. And there's information on the Philosopher's Stone. There's writings here about or from Plato's Symposium. It even starts with different writings, even from the Bible, that contain references to magic or spells or charms. So it starts way back there because it is from Antiquity all the way through. So you're starting with the Antiquity, then the early Middle Ages. You've got any of the references that are from the Bible. You've got the ancient Greek and Roman times. Then it goes into the medieval period, Renaissance, which is a really important magical period, and then way up as far as the beginning of the Enlightenment period. So there's a bit of everything in here. There's a bit of everything in here. And I think there's a great introduction in here too. So the introduction is a good idea. But I think one of the most important things about this book is that it is putting these writings and esoteric philosophy and magic itself all into the context of history, into the different historical periods. But I think it's also really important to put it into the context of philosophy. Yeah, these are the beginnings of esoteric philosophy and metaphysics, where it started in very ancient times in a kind of superstitious, it sort of started with superstition type of ideas or beliefs. And then it developed, all of this developed. So that is why I actually see all of this as esoteric philosophy. And there are, components of magicians and magic in there. So this is a great book for people who would like an anthology of writings of the Western magical tradition, all in that context. So that is the Book of Magic from Antiquity to the Enlightenment by Brian Copenhaver, who is the editor of that book. Now, the next 4 books I'm going into are all part of a Western Esoteric Masters Series. I really like this series. It began quite a while ago. And these are all published by North Atlantic Books. I have 4 of these in the series. I'm thinking of getting another one. So, for example, this is one in the series of the Western Esoteric Masters Series. This is the one on John Dee. This one is not as thick as the others, but it's a great book. It has the picture of, or painting of John Dee on the cover. And I'll give you an idea of what's in here as well. This is the only one that, this book does not have an index, whereas the others in the series that I have here do. In this book of John Dee, there are diaries. So the magical diaries are really important as far as John Dee is concerned, because all of the information of what is known about John Dee has been really compiled from the diaries. He had private diaries, he had magical diaries, so writings of his from his diaries are really important. There are excerpts of those in here. So this is selected and introduced by Gerald Suster. He is the editor of this book. You have the information on the hieroglyphic monad, which is what John Dee is particularly known for, and Enochian magic, because he was particularly known for Enochian magic and his work with angels. And John Dee was a huge influence on ceremonial magic from there on, and he was a really big influence on Aleister Crowley. So here is the hieroglyphic monad. Drawings are here from in the book. So there's a chapter all on the hieroglyphic monad. That was his very important symbol that he created for magic. There are his spiritual diaries. And there's other diaries in here as well. Personal diaries, spiritual diaries. And there is also a really good appendix in this book at the back, all about Enochian magic. So it's a great book. It's a really good book for its size. You know, there's quite a bit in here on Enochian magic that is really useful. It's not a how-to book, but it is all about John Dee and how he thought and why he thought the way he did. And it really gives a great background into understanding the basis of John Dee's magic. So, John Dee, one of the books from the Western Esoteric Masters Series, edited by Gerald Suster. And that would be still available, I would think. If not, you can get that on Amazon or somewhere like that. Next one is quite well known as well in the magic world, which is Robert Fludd. This is the Robert Fludd book in part of the Western Esoteric Masters Series. This is edited by William Huffman. So here is quite a well-known diagram of Robert Fludd's on the cover. This is a thicker book. Here is an idea of some of the pictures in this book, drawings. This one. Robert Fludd was quite known for his diagrams and drawings. These ones as well. So he was also known for his ideas on the structure of the cosmos. So this is in here as well. His writings on chaos and the origins of the creatures of the heavens. So the other things in this book, it includes his very important magnum opus writings on microcosm and macrocosm. He has writings on the quaternity, of the elements, and his writings and ideas on alchemy. So this is another really worthwhile book in the series. Robert Fludd, edited by William Huffman. So it's worth getting as well. Next two books I have in the series is G.R.S. Mead and the Gnostic Quest. He lived in late Victorian times, and he was known for his writings on Gnosticism and Hermeticism, and he wrote volumes. His best known volumes are titled Thrice Greatest Hermes, and I've also got a video about that particular book on my channel for anyone who's interested in that review. He was really important for his research and writings on Gnosticism and Hermeticism, and that's why this book is titled G.R.S. Mead and the Gnostic Quest. So G.R.S., that's his initials. His name was George Robert Stowe Mead. So he really did influence, for the first time, Victorian thought about Gnosticism and Hermeticism, because after the Renaissance and because of the Enlightenment period, these writings and these topics had really sort of been left behind and almost sort of out of fashion. People started to get far more interested in science during that period onwards, and then G.R.S. Mead, people like him, brought back these topics like Gnosticism and Hermeticism. So he was really an important person. And there's also a really interesting chapter in here on initiation as well. He was one of the first authors of the time to also study and research ancient forms of initiation. And there's even a chapter in here on esoteric Christianity. So he's one of the first researchers and authors about that type of thing too. So G.R.S. Mead and the Gnostic Quest, it's really worth getting. This is edited and introduced by Clare Goodrick-Clarke and Nicholas Goodrick-Clarke. So it's a really interesting book. It's that one in the series. And the last one I'm showing today in the series is the book about Marsilio Ficino, who was in Renaissance Italy, and he was an astrologer and a magician. So he was kind of a contemporary of John Dee. This is quite a thick book. He was very important for his writings about astrology and the planets, and these writings did influence later modern, what you would call modern or Victorian writings about astrology. So his thoughts and his writings were really quite important. So this one is edited and introduced by Angela Voss. And so we have astrological writings in here, writings on particular planets. There's a glossary of terms in this book that isn't in the other books that I have. So the glossary of terms can be really useful to people, especially if you want to know a bit more about astrology. And all of these books have bibliography, notes and index, except for the John Dee that does not have an index. So just to show some pages from the Ficino one, Just having another look at the, oh yeah, okay. There are some sacred geometry drawings in the G.R.S. Mead book as well. So I wanted to show that. These are in the G.R.S. Mead book that I just remembered to show. And this is really interesting. He's also got a diagram. He put together a diagram about the eons, or the angels. So the hierarchy of the angels. So that's interesting too. So thought I had better just mention that. Okay, so back to Marsilio Ficino. What is in some of the drawings in this book? Here is a drawing. It's quite well known, this one, about the Ptolemaic universe. That one. And here is a drawing of Saturn, or Saturnus. And here is another picture of the Sol, or the Sun. That's quite well known too, that drawing. So that's some of the things that are in the Marsilio Ficino book. Astrological writings, writings on the planets, and glossary of terms. But this is quite an important book from an astrology perspective, because this is from the Renaissance times, and someone who was also a magician. Edited and introduced by Angela Voss. So all part of the series of books of the Western Esoteric Masters Series. That is a statue picture of Marsilio Ficino. Okay, so there are some of the books that I wanted to show you today that are really about, I'm calling this video Masters and Magick, because these are about esoteric masters who happen to work with magic. The exception in this, of course, is G.R.S. Mead, because I'm almost certain that he was not a magician, but the others were part of the magic genre, and also that anthology of the Book of Magic that I showed first of all. So I'm going to put some details below the video, and I hope you enjoyed finding out about some of these books. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.